So we mainly used word clouds because they're really good at getting a lot of information across at one moment. And then you also see the images on the right. And we had 4 different types of word clouds because there are 4 really textual parts of the pin that we wanted to combine together. There's the description of the pin that has content about what the pin is about. And then there's the domains that are connected with the pin because each pin is posted from another website. So there's a domain connected with that pin. And then there's the boards that are actually that pin is put onto by other users. So that the names of those boards are another word cloud. And then we have the promoters that are promoting on this search specifically because Pinterest the way it's funded is through ad revenue. When there's pins, there's ads stuck in there. So there's the promoter word cloud, what is promoting. And then the date graph, which is just when are these pins created. So this is an example of global warming. You can see that in the description, climate change comes up a lot. We see boards have the word warming in them, and then for some reason, Target and Wayfair and Squarespace like to promote on global warming. And this is another example of shoes, which is much more gendered search term. So we see gender coming up a lot more in this search. So in the descriptions, we have men, it comes up right there. And boards, products, Nike, Air, men, these are all things we connect with more masculine shoes. This is my search. And Adidas, Shoe Carnival is advertising. And these are a lot of things that I see ads for all the time. You know, they just follow me around the internet, and you see it reflected in this website.
So if we had time, which we do not, we would show you this video that was put together by a student in Dan Anderson's class from this past spring, where he actually had them use this tool to kind of scrape data about themselves. And he also asked them to create a kind of fake persona of someone with very different demographic markers than themselves to see if it changed the search results on the searches that they were making. And unfortunately, we don't have time to show you this. We'll send the PowerPoint out so that people can look at it. But the kind of key takeaway from both videos that we were going to share is that these students, when searching, realized that their data from other parts of their internet exploration were absolutely influencing the results they were getting. So we had one student who was a 20-year-old male, and then he created this fake 42-year-old white woman who was searching for the exact same terms as him, and he was realizing that they were getting the same results because his data was still kind of permeating the information that Pinterest had about him. We had another student who was realizing that her last name, which indicates her ethnicity, was impacting the results that she was getting, despite the fact that none of her searches necessarily connected to that ethnic identity. So there are ways where Pinterest is clearly using your search terms, but they're also adopting other factors about you that they've perhaps learned or taken from elsewhere, and that's impacting the material that you get. So we want to kind of, since we are, want to have time for Q&A, we're going to just run through some questions that are of interest to us about these student videos and about their experience of the platform. We're going to talk about some questions that we have going forward. I think we might allude to some things we're thinking about doing with the tool itself, and then we would love to hear from you guys and see if there's anything that you want us to pick up on from these questions. So I will quickly go through these. We're interested in, can we really detach Pinterest suggestions from the data that's generated and cultivated via browsing other parts of the internet? So is there any way of separating those two experiences? How can our platform encourage students to look beyond traditional suspicions of social media? We're all a little suspicious, I think, of social media. How can we look a little bit beyond that and start thinking about the content itself and how it might be impacting identity formation? How can users be further encouraged to investigate these kinds of systems in all parts of their lives, but certainly in all parts of their internet experience, and not just in Pinterest, but elsewhere? And then what can this metadata and image scraper tell us or students about what constitutes identity online? How much of it is really generated by yourself and how much of it is generated by these other factors?
We've also been thinking a lot about how this, as we've worked on this project this spring, how this content and Pinterest recommendations are influenced by COVID. We've watched content shift in terms of homeschooling or virtual kind of events or planning, and we're curious how this atmosphere impacts both general search results, but also gendered search results, and what that trajectory looks like. The research, the existing research around gendered content on Pinterest, and some of our own research we've showed today reflects really heteronormative and binary ideas of gender, which does also reflect the majority of Pinterest content. But we're curious what future research could look like in terms of exploring queer spaces on Pinterest. And our tool also focuses on gathering pins and metadata for humanistic inquiry. And we're curious about introducing AI and visual machine learning, considering the ethical and technical issues we talked about earlier with visual analysis.
And we also want to take the summaries made from our research on Pinterest and kind of move it to other platforms and ask the question, how does it reflect on other platforms? And specifically, how does our concept of Pinterest algorithm compare to a platform like TikTok, which has received a lot of news attention recently, and has a heavier reliance on the recommendation algorithm? It's got that home feed that has a stronger sense of sub-community as well. And then we really wanted to expand our platform itself and incorporate some new ideas in future iterations like colors and deep learning, vision, and stuff like that. And yeah.
Yeah, I do want to emphasize that we can see the color palette on all these pins. We didn't really talk about that very much, but there is a lot of visual analysis to be done that we've only just started doing. So yeah, love to hear from y'all.